I've been a financial advisor now for over 20 years. And one of the most common questions I get asked is, hey, Azul, how can I generate a certain amount of money to cover my monthly expenses? And two really common numbers that people share with me is either $5,000 or $10,000 a month. So in today's video, I want to go over 5 different ways that you can generate $10,000 a month in retirement. And if your number is different, if it's 2 times this number, or if your number's half this number, you can still use the information in this video. So the first one I want to go over is Social Security, right? Our investments don't have to generate the full $10,000 a month to cover these expenses. We have various tools, and that's what these 5 ideas that I'm going to share with you are. And one tool that we have is our Social Security, right? We've worked hard, we've put money into Social Security for a long time, and it's an important component for Americans. In fact, the average Social Security check, and it changes every month, but as of January of 2024, the average Social Security check was $1,907. So there's a lot of assumptions in here, but let's say that you're married or you have a life partner, and both of you are getting that average check. So that's almost $4,000. That's $3,800 a month. So we've almost covered 40% of the number. And in fact, interestingly, if you look at the maximum Social Security check, the maximum Social Security check, for most of us, we have to wait till we're 62. At 62, it's $2,710. So if there's 2 of us, that covers half of the $10,000 a month. At full retirement age, the maximum Social Security benefit is $3,822. And at 70, it's almost $5,000 a month. It's $4,873 in 2024 is the maximum. So a married couple, if both spouses are making that, they've almost hit that number, right? But few of us are going to get the maximum Social Security check. So it's just one tool. But we take the $10,000 and then we subtract. In this case, we were using the average Social Security check of $1,907. So of that $10,000 a month in this example, we subtract out $3,800, and now we've got to generate $6,200 a month. So let's move on to the second one. And probably the most common outside way to generate cash outside of investments in Social Security is probably real estate investments. More than 10% of my clients have real estate investments. Maybe it's a rental property. Maybe they used to own a house and they moved and they were able to put down a new down payment, and so they rented that out. So if that's you, if you have some rental income, let's just assume that's $1,000 a month of free cash flow that's coming in from that. And again, in this video, you can mix and match. So if you don't have any real estate investments, that's okay. There's other tools that are coming, so hang with me. So now we've taken that $10,000 a month, we lowered it by $3,800, so we had $6,200. I'm assuming $1,000 in rental income. So now we've got a little over half. We've got $5,200 to make. And now if you have a pension, and let's say the pension's paying $1,000 a month, you could subtract that as well. So few of us have pensions now that it's not even one of my 5 in this. So let's stay with the $5,200. So what is that on an annual basis? On an annual basis, that's $62,400. And if you use the rule of 4%, and it's harder to divide by 4%, for me, I just multiply by 25 because 1 over 25 is 4%. So if somebody tells me they'd like to spend $100,000 a year, I multiply that by 25, and just high level to get me in the ballpark. It's not how you want to make the final retirement decision, but 100,000 times 25 is $2.5 million. So if somebody tells me they have $3.5 million and can they generate $100,000, in retirement. It depends on other factors, but the very high likelihood, right? So in this case, how much money would it take in order to generate that $5,200 a month if it all came from your investments? Well, that's $62,400, and 25 times that is about $1.6 million. So if it was your investments using what you would need to make up for the rest, then, I would say in the ballpark of about, $1.5 to $1.75 million probably is going to be pretty close. If you don't have rentals, then instead of $62,400, you're going to need an extra $12,000 a year. Let's call that $75,000. And $75,000 times 25 is $1.9 million, so roughly $2 million. So that's the investments. But, the nice thing about doing this with your investments is you can tailor it to who you are. And there's a chance, remember that 4% rule was developed by a gentleman named Bill Bengen. And that was the lowest withdrawal rate where somebody did not run out of money over a 30-year period using actual stock market historical data. Now remember, the SEC on advertisements, you probably have heard this before, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. And the 4% rule is based on backward-looking data. I mean, think how differently the world is today, because Bengen's portfolio was 60% large cap stocks, but importantly, 40%, 40%, intermediate government bonds. So let's call that 5-year bonds or 10-year bonds. It wasn't that long ago that 5 and 10-year bonds really weren't paying anything. And now that rate has increased dramatically. So the world can change. So the 4% rule is really not a rule. It's a guideline. It's something to get you going in the right place, get you started. And some people are going to have higher returns. In fact, the average of all those data points, the worst case where the 4% rule comes from, is of October 1968. So that was the worst period. If your parents retired or your grandparents retired in October 1968, they got that 4% rule, right? If they would just squeak by over a 30-year period. But the average over Bengen's study was actually 7%. Now, I'm not saying you should spend 7%, but I just want you to know there's a lot of variability. There's a wide range of outcomes there. So we talked about the using your investment accounts to generate this $10,000 a month. And we talked about, anywhere from $1.5 to $2 million, depending on, again, whether you put in that $1,000 for rental income or not. If you don't have the rental income, then you'd need closer to that $2 million mark. Okay, but there is another choice. And I'm what's called a fee-only financial advisor. I'm a fiduciary to my clients 100% of the time. And the other choice, I want you to know about it. I want you to have it on your radar screen. Again, this isn't financial advice. I don't know your situation, but you should know there's another tool. And this is point number 4, so stick around because there's another one, point number 5, that I think can be one of the most powerful and is under considered by people. But this tool number 4 is a single premium annuity. Now, you don't hear many fee-only financial advisors talk about annuities. I'm not licensed to sell annuities. I don't want to be licensed to sell annuities, but I do want you to know about them. So you can buy what's called a single premium lifetime annuity. And if you're married, you can buy a joint lifetime. What that means is you put in a lump sum day one, and it's with an insurance company, and you essentially sign a contract with the insurance company and say, I'm going to give you this amount of money today, and in exchange, you're going to give me a certain amount of money down the road. So in our case, we needed another $5,200 a month. And in general, and this changes month to month, but essentially, you're going to get back anywhere from, in today's market, anywhere from like 5%, maybe to like 7% of that money every year. Now, how can they do that? How can they give you a return that's higher than that 4%, right? And the reason is if you do a joint life, when the people that are getting this money during their lifetime, when they pass away, there's nothing left. There are ways where you can, there's different features and you can add that feature if you want. But 5 to 7%. So if you needed $5,200 a month, an annuity like that's probably going to cost you around $1 million. And if you needed $6,200 a month, an annuity like that, you're going to have to do your own research again. I'm not licensed to sell. I'm only mentioning it because I want it to be on your radar screen. Is going to cost you about $1.25 million. So a single premium lifetime annuity is something to think about. And you can see you need less money in order to be able to do that. But remember, the average minimum withdrawal rate, the safe withdrawal rate, the Bill Bengen, the 4% rule, the average of that was 7%. Now that doesn't mean that I think you should take out 7%. You've got to be careful. But when it's your investments, you can tailor it for what you need. And there is a chance that you're going to have money left over. Where with an annuity, unless you buy that feature, you're likely not going to get that in. The other thing is, I believe it's hard to buy an annuity that adjusts with inflation every year. So the first couple years, you know, that $5,200 a month is going to feel like $5,200 a month. But what if you have a period of time where inflation gets high again? Will that annuity adjust for inflation? That's a question you'd have to ask a financial advisor if you were interested in doing that. Okay, so what's this fifth item? What's this one that few people think about? It can be super powerful, and it's not for everybody, admittedly. But if you're flexible and you think, okay, maybe you're in your mid-50s or you're in your early 60s and you say, okay, I talked to my financial advisor and he or she says, I only have an 80% likelihood of success. I'd like that to be 95% or 97%. Here's one way to think about that trade-off, right? If you have an 80% likelihood of success, yes, you want that to be as close to 100% as possible. So you have a 20% chance of having to be adaptable, maybe change your expenses or do what I'm about to share. But you also have an 80% chance that everything's going to work out. And one of the biggest risks is early in your retirement. It's called sequence of return risk. The risk is, the reason you likely have an 80% chance of success instead of 100 is some of those negative outcomes, that October 1968 effect, right? But you know, what's the likelihood you're going to get the October 1968, right? You might be a year later or a year earlier, which can have a big impact. So the likelihood is about 20% that you're going to find yourself in a tighter situation, according, you know, in this example that I'm showing. So would you rather have a 20% chance that you're going to have to modify something, or a 100% chance if you decide to work an extra 3 years or 5 years to take that 80% up to 97%? If you do that, you have a 100% likelihood of losing those 3 to 5 years. That could be your healthiest and most active years in retirement. So if we're adaptable, we can think about this last strategy. And this last strategy is you think about taking a part-time job if you find yourself in a situation where you need to do that. So what's the last tool to get that $10,000 a month? The last tool is to take a part-time job and to generate some of that income. And that's why I made this video here. 5 good paying remote jobs for retirees. Thanks for watching this one, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.